everyone, class is in session. Unfortunately, Adam Pacitti is away this week, so I'm filling in. I am Jack from Cultaholic.com, and for this week only, I am your cool substitute teacher, hence the baseball cap, hence the attempt at facial hair, and hence the t-shirt representing a renowned figure from popular music. Before anyone mentions it in the comments, I'm fully aware that I look like I want to be the very best, like no one ever was. But apart from that, it's been a very eventful Smackdown. Obviously on Raw, we had the whole Money in the Bank situation with everyone wanting to get into that Money in the Bank ladder match. That continued on over to Smackdown, but was it a better show or was it a little bit lackluster? Let's find out as we take a look at Smackdown Graded. We start things off with the traditional pro wrestling opening segment. As we all know, as I said yesterday, if you're paying attention, the first rule of professional wrestling is that your opening segment cannot contain any professional wrestling. That continued on SmackDown as Paige hit the ring and delivered a far more simple opening promo than we're maybe used to. She just came out and said, right, Money in the Bank's coming up. There's some cross-branded Money in the Bank ladder matches. I need the best of SmackDown to compete in those and ensure that we get the briefcase. It all made sense. This would have got a higher grade than I'm going to give it if it wasn't for one thing that Paige said, which was, of course, that Backlash was a smashing success. Now, as we all know by now, Backlash wasn't a smashing success at all. It was actually maybe the worst WWE pay-per-view in quite a few months, quite a few years even maybe. It was a very lackluster affair. So for that blatant lie and for the fact that not really much was said by Paige in this opening segment, I'm just going to give it a straight down the middle, solid C. And we kick things off with the first of those Money in the Bank qualifying matches, The Miz versus the United States champion, Jeffrey Nero Hardy. Now, The Miz is just absolutely on fire. He has been recently. He's been one of the best performers in all of WWE, and that continued on SmackDown Live. He dragged a long, it nearly went 20 minutes, like a long opening match out of Jeff Hardy, who doesn't normally take part in those sort of matches, certainly singles matches that go for that length of time. But this was a good match, largely thanks to The Miz controlling things and being the devious heel that we all know he loves to be. It was also kind of like a surprise to me, considering the past two big matches we've seen Jeff Hardy take part in were that pretty bad match against Jinder Mahal at the Greatest Royal Rumble, and then that pretty average match against Randy Orton at Backlash. Now this sort of proves to me, this match on SmackDown proves that Jeff Hardy can still go when he really wants to, or maybe when he really has to, but it was a very good match indeed. Certainly nothing of like a really good caliber. Like, I wouldn't watch it and go, wow, I need to watch that match again, but it was very serviceable as an opening match of a SmackDown show, and it had an interesting and unique finish also. The finish came when Jeff Hardy leapt from the top rope into a swanton bomb. It looked like he was going to get the pinfall, but Miz quickly somehow found the strength to roll him into a schoolboy and pick up the 1-2-3. I thought that was really good and really clever. It wasn't sort of a loss that made the United States champion look particularly weak, but it did get Miz into that Money in the Bank ladder match. And as we all know, Miz is fantastic in sort of multi-man matches where he can be the I'm thinking of the opening match of WrestleMania 32 when Zack Ryder won the Intercontinental Championship, but it looked like the Miz was going to. He was great in that match at being the big arch heel that everybody did not want to see win the title, and I'd like to see him play a similar role at Money in the Bank. This match gets a B+. Next up, we had lots of short little backstage segments, none of which were long enough to give an individual grade to. We had Sheamus being all depressed because he lost to Xavier Woods last week, and Cesaro kind of laughing at him, and Sheamus going, why don't you face Xavier Woods this week? Because Sheamus apparently has booking control at SmackDown Live. We also had a Sanity video package. They're going to be making their debut relatively soon, apparently. And also we had Renee Young trying to grab a quick word with Shinsuke Nakamura. Nakamura said, I don't speak English again, which is, you know, a great little heel line when he doesn't really want to give too much away, but he did say that it's not over between himself and AJ Styles. But none of those segments were really long enough to give an individual grade to, so I'm going to move straight on to the next match, which was Charlotte Flair versus Peyton Royce. The Iconics came out and tore down Charlotte before the match, as you know, as they usually do. This one fell a little bit flat. Peyton's visual expression or visual imitation of Charlotte didn't really get too much of a pop from the crowd, but it doesn't. The beauty of the Iconics is that it doesn't really matter if their jokes don't go over well, because they're supposed to be irritating and they're supposed to be really annoying. So the match kicked off, and let's talk about that imminently right now. I should mention, of course, that this was also a Money in the Bank qualifying match for the women's ladder match, which Ember Moon already qualified for over on Monday Night Raw. And to be honest, this was the first of all the Money in the Bank qualifying matches on Raw and on SmackDown that wasn't particularly good. We've had some really good ones, like that Triple Threat main event in Raw, like the Triple Threat women's match on Raw as well. This was the first one for me that felt a little bit lackluster, a little bit sloppy. At some points it was almost like they were wrestling in slow motion, like there was a lot of shuffling into position and trying to work out their limbs and that sort of thing. I don't doubt the ability of both women. Obviously Charlotte Flair is one of the she'll go down as one of the greatest women's wrestlers of all time. Peyton Royce as well, I'm a big fan of her too. So I'm not going to be too harsh here, but I did think it was a pretty poor match. I was a little bit bored watching it. Billie Kay tried to get involved, as we all knew she would, but Charlotte was able to turn the tables, roll Peyton through into a pinning predicament, which Charlotte then sort of realized, I'm going to give up on this because I can just slap on my finisher. She hit the figure 4 leg lock, bridged into the figure 8, and picked up a solid victory. Charlotte really needed that victory as well after losing clean to Carmella. Backlash. Oh dear. I'm going to give this a C-. It was perfectly fine, but just a little bit below average, which to me corresponds to a C- in my head. So yeah, but at the same time I should mention that the Money in the Bank women's ladder match is looking really good indeed already. It's already got Ember Moon and Charlotte Flair, two of the strongest women in WWE. Hopefully, the more women that are added to it, the stronger and stronger it becomes. So good stuff here, and well done Charlotte for picking up a victory. Gold star for you. I'm going to try and tone down the teacher stuff because it's just getting a little bit embarrassing. Next up, that match that I mentioned briefly just before, Cesaro versus Xavier Woods, after Woods had defeated Sheamus last week on SmackDown. This match was a good one. It was wrestled at quite a high pace. Neither man went into like their super cyborg, like ultra Dragon Ball Saiyan Digivolve mode like they often do. Cesaro can just wrestle at a phenomenally high level when he's in a big match, and he really needs to ramp it up. And we forget that Xavier Woods can also raise his game quite a lot as well, particularly in like big 6-man tag matches on pay-per-views with the rest of the New Day and that sort of thing. Both men kind of took it a little bit easier at this point. I totally understand that, because you don't want to blow all your big moves and all your big spots on a TV match, but it was still wrestled with a sense of importance and a sense of urgency. I'm a big fan of that. Good job, lads, good job. The finish was really good as well. Cesaro tried for a roll-up and got his feet on the ropes, but then with expert timing, Kofi Kingston ran in around the outside of the ring and knocked his feet off the ropes at the count of 2, which was really good. Then Xavier Woods went for his like rope walk splash attack kind of thing, but Cesaro popped to his feet, hit him with a huge uppercut, and picked up the 1-2-3. I'm going to give this match a B. I thought it was good. It was just a little bit too short to get into the really higher grades, but it was about as good as this length of match can be on a TV show. Great job, Cesaro. Great job, Xavier Woods. I'll say great job, Cesaro, again, because I slightly mispronounced your name. You cheeky little cheeky little boy. Then we had a creepy little Bludgeon Brothers video package, which was kind of like, you know, Toy Story, where Sid has kind of torn apart all of his toys and stitched them back together in kind of a broken, horrible, disgusting fashion. And then Woody wakes up there and he's like, oh, and they all come out of nowhere and terrify him. But they turn out to be good at heart, really. And then he becomes friends with them. And then Buzz tries to save him. And then Woody's like, oh, I love Toy Story. I really love Toy. This was nothing like that. It was a little bit like that. They were broken toys scattered around. And if you looked, all of the toys were WWE action figures of other members of the tag division that the Bludgeon Brothers feel they're better than, which I enjoy. Then Rowan and Harper appeared and said, we have toys of our own. They meant their hammers, I hope. Jesus, I hope they meant their hammers and it wasn't some sort of dirty joke. Then they said, who's going to beat us next? And genuinely, I don't know. Maybe Sanity will come and debut as baby faces, and maybe they'll be the next big opponents for the Bludgeon Brothers. But for now, the Bludgies, as I'm going to nickname them, are the undisputed top dogs of the SmackDown Tag Team division. This gets a B-. It was quite a cool, atmospheric little video package, but nothing of great importance. B-. Next up, do we have to talk about this? Right, as many of you know, I'm quite a fan of Becky Lynch. I think not only is she a great wrestler, but she seems like quite a lovely woman as well. She seems really nice, really upbeat, and really happy and look at that. Sam put that in. I didn't ask him to put that photograph in, but he did. And look how he's cropped it as well. You can only see the edges of her face for maximum creepiness. Cheers, Sam, mate. Thank you. This match was Becky Lynch versus Mandy Rose, and I really want to talk about it because for me, this was easily the worst thing on the show. Essentially, what happened was Becky Lynch made her entrance. We went backstage to where Mandy Rose was set to make her entrance alongside Sonya Deville. And then Paige, obviously their former leader over at Absolution before she sadly had to retire, she came along and said, no. Sonya, you are am not going out to accompany her to ringside. Mandy, you are doing this on your own. I want to question, why is this any of Paige's business? Yeah, I know she's the SmackDown general manager, but if she wants to stop heels accompanying other heels to the ring, she should have just looked at the last match where Sheamus accompanied Cesaro. I know they're her former friends, but what business is it of Paige's to care whether Sonya accompanies Mandy to the ring? I don't get it. I mean, yes, you could argue that she's seen the examples of their cheating in the past, given that they were all in the same stable. But wasn't she the one who taught them how to be like that? Because she was their leader. This was illogical to me, but fair play to Mandy Rose. I know she's meant to be portrayed as a devious heel and all that sort of stuff, but she just did. She just went out on her own and won in about 4 minutes. Makes little sense to me. The other thing as well is that I just want to talk about the treatment of Becky Lynch recently, because Becky, she is legitimately, she's one of the 4 horsewomen. She's going to go down as, like Charlotte Flair, like I said before, she's going to go down as one of the best women's wrestlers ever. But now I think she might go down in history as one of the most underappreciated or misused women's wrestlers ever, because despite her amazing technical ability and her awesome bone-crunching suplexes and her great submission game and all that sort of stuff, babyface fire, I'm getting quite annoyed, she just lost clean. She went for a move off the ropes and Mandy Rose swept her legs away. Becky hit her head off the ropes and then Mandy rolled her up for the 1, 2, 3. It wasn't a dirty victory. She didn't cheat in any way. It was totally clean, and I don't get it. I didn't like it at all. And this is going to sound harsh because the match wasn't that bad. It was a little bit sloppy and a little bit uninspired, but I'm going to give it an E+ because the booking was so weak. And we ended things with another men's Money in the Bank qualifying match between Daniel Bryan, the returning hero, and Rusev. And now, let's talk about this then. This is a complicated one to unpack because it was a good match. It was maybe the best match on the show, although maybe the opener was, but it was a toss-up between the opener and the main event for the best match on the show. Daniel Bryan and Rusev are both excellent wrestlers, of course, especially Daniel Bryan, we all know that. And it was a good match. Daniel Bryan kept working the arm, Rusev kept selling the arm, he couldn't go for the accolade at one point. All made sense, all really good stuff, all stuff I like to see in wrestling. And now, I know we've been crying out for Rusev to bloody win a match for like what feels like months now. But not this one. Don't put him over Daniel Bryan when he hasn't lost yet on his return from injury. What are you... I felt watching this match like I did when Asuka lost to Charlotte at WrestleMania, just WrestleMania 34, because the undefeated streak was broken and it was kind of like, why have they done this? Meltzer even implied on Wrestling Observer Radio that WWE had made Asuka lose, booked her to lose because they didn't know how to continue booking her undefeated streak on the main roster. It feels like they've done this to Daniel Bryan as well. Let's just get his first loss out of the way so we don't have to think about it anymore. We don't have to take that into account. I look at it from the opposite point of view and I think, look, if you've got an undefeated streak and a really popular superstar who hasn't yet been pinned, use that and really ramp up the tension in each one of their matches, and that can stretch on for months and months. Look at Goldberg in WCW. Look at Undertaker at WrestleMania. Instead, what we got was a pretty damn good match, which ended in baffling circumstances as Rusev won with the Machka kick. And again, like Becky Lynch's loss, it was relatively clean. Like at one point, Aiden English dragged Rusev out of the ring when Daniel Bryan was setting up for the knee. That was a bit of cheating heelishness, but at the same time, it didn't factor too heavily into the finish. Rusev just hit the Machka kick, and Daniel Bryan was knocked out. He just lost, took a clean pinfall to Rusev. I enjoy that Rusev's got a win for once, and I enjoy that he's going to be in the Money in the Bank ladder match. And I know that Daniel Bryan realistically was never going to be put into the Money in the Bank ladder match given his health issues. However, why would you even book this match? Don't book Daniel Bryan in a Money in the Bank qualifier. Put him in a singles match at Money in the Bank. Don't do this. Don't throw away his win on SmackDown, or his first loss, sorry, on SmackDown. I'm getting all riled up because it was that frustrating. I got a little bit frustrated watching this. I'm going to give it a B-. The match itself was better than a B-. The match itself was probably like a B+ or an A- even, but the booking was so frustrating for me. And I know that a lot of you are going to be thinking, why are you complaining? Rusev's finally got a win. It's Rusev Day. You didn't need to win this one. He's won. There's so many other matches that he could have won. Could have won at WrestleMania 34. Don't put him over Daniel Bryan. Oh, honestly. So, of course, we're left with the heartwarming image. SmackDown goes off the air with Daniel Bryan alone in the ring, heartbroken and devastated because he couldn't beat Rusev and get into the Money in the Bank ladder match. Oh, Christmas is cancelled, children. So let's give a grade to this SmackDown Live from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm going to give this a straight C. I thought there were 3 decent matches, 2 bad ones. and everything kind of made sense. Like on Raw, they emphasized the importance of the Money in the Bank ladder match. There were lots of superstars in little, selfie promos saying, oh, I really want to get into the Money in the Bank ladder match, which I understand, which is really good. But at the same time, it wasn't quite as polished a show as Raw. SmackDown continues to lag a little bit behind Raw. Remember when SmackDown used to be the wrestling brand? Remember when SmackDown used to be the Smarks' favourite? Now it's a much more even playing field, and you could even argue that Raw in the past year or so has really operated at a level above that of SmackDown. So a C grade, room for improvement certainly, but not the most offensive show in the world, particularly when you compare it to Backlash last weekend. Thank you very much for watching and for attending this class. Adam Pacitti will hopefully be back next week. Well, he will be back next week, unless he loses an arm or something. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. You can follow me on Twitter at JackTheJobber. You can follow all of us at Cultaholic and check out our Patreon as well, patreon.com/Cultaholic. And never forget, obviously, to join us.